From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, for full disclosure to the audience today, we have 3 New Yorkers on the podcast, so I'd like to make a parental guidance announcement. You definitely want to ratchet up your parental controls because there's going to be a couple of bombs being dropped today. Today on the podcast, we have Hemant Varshney. Hemant Varshney is the founder and president of Digicom. Now, Digicom, their tagline says it all, the no bullshit growth agency. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Varshney. Explain to us, what is the bullshit in marketing space today, and what is it that you do not do?
Sure. The bullshit is there are a lot of maybe agencies and consultants out there that operate in a black box where it's like, hey, we're promising you the moon and we're not able to hit specific targets. And the no bullshit part comes from everything we do is derived in data. Our goal is to acquire customers profitably for our partners, e-commerce partners, retail partners. We mostly focus on e-com. And we are pulling such large quantities of data. We're understanding your break-even points. We're doing the work for you to understand those break-even points so that when we're going out and we're advertising, we understand what metrics we need to hit to be profitable. And all of that is rooted in the data. So
you work with mom and pop businesses, but your bread and butter is in e-com, right?
Yes.
So first of all, I love the tagline, I have to tell you, because there is a lot of bullshit in marketing, right? And then they use these fancy words if you're a business owner that you have no idea what the hell it really means, right? So let's start with the mom and pop side of the business, right? We were talking offline and you were telling us you had some doctors, dentists, podiatrists that wanted to have more more clients come in the door, right? Let's say they didn't have any type of digital advertising besides, one of their admins posting on Facebook every once in a while. What's the first step? What do you do?
Step one is there are a lot of free indexes out there. When I say indexes, I mean something like or directories, right? Like Yelp is a directory. You can create your own Facebook page, just like you mentioned. You should have an Instagram account, create an account on X, create an account on all of the free directories first. Why? Why do you want to do this? When people are shopping or looking for a service provider or a product, they want to find reviews. They want to see that you exist in a bunch of different places. Before you spend $1, if you spend a few hours in a week, and you really only have to do this once or twice at first, it's set up all these free accounts. When people are searching for your service or your product, you'll start surfacing on these accounts, and it costs absolutely $0. And it's an easier way for people to find you. And over time, try to get reviews, right? Anytime someone walks out of your office, mom, pop, business, small business, have them write a review, leave a Google review. Super simple, right? A lot of businesses are built on reviews. People do business with people. So they also want to understand, who are you? What services did you provide? Why are you an excellent person for the job versus the next person, right? So I think that's just number one thing to have set up.
So that's all that can be done organically and rather cheap, right?
Yep.
So what can you do on the paid side for people? What really moves the needle?
Sure. So the example that we were talking about in the pre-show is, work with a few doctors' offices, podiatrists, dentists, and I have two examples here. So had a buddy, Metropolitan Podiatry. They're based in Queens, and at the time he was seeing about 50 patients a month. And he was like, "Hey, listen, I'd love to be able to increase my patient volume." So I spoke to my buddy Mish, and I was just like, "Okay, cool, Mish. Let's run some Google ads." He had a base website set up. Went in, built him a site. That's not our business very much, but we have the ability to do it. And so built him a site and started running geo-targeted Google campaigns for him. So foot doctor near me, podiatrist near me, specific keywords around ailments with your feet, right? Like plantar fasciitis, toenail fungus, right? So like we started testing all of these keywords, and we go into market. We're driving traffic to a site for people to book appointments. We're able to track every time someone books an appointment. And by turning this entire, campaign on, we're spending, $200 to $2,500 a month. And we've scaled his patient volume from 50 patients a week. Now we're at typically between 180 patients to 220 patients a week by turning on Google Ads in this geo-targeted area. And why this is important for this specific local business is it doesn't make sense for somebody in Queens, New York to be serving ads in Los Angeles. It doesn't, because the person isn't flying over, flying through the country. If they have a broken foot, they're going to find a doctor near them, right? So, and the next part is also breaking down the economics of acquiring this patient. So what do I mean by that? We work together with Mish to understand, hey, on average, if a new patient comes in on between his first and third visit, the practice will generate X revenue. It doesn't make sense for the practice to have a patient come in that costs more than the revenue he's going to yield. It doesn't make sense for the practice to have patients come in and at a higher cost than the actual profit margin, right? Because there's a specific margin that you can have. And so we figured out, okay, this is your actual margin on average for the patients that are coming in based on these insurances that you accept. And so if we go out and we get a patient for you at Y dollars, it's profitable for you. Once we have that number, that's what we're working towards in terms of acquisition costs on the ad platform.
Nice. And how did you wind up getting in the digital marketing space?
YouTube University. So about 16 years ago, I was in college, and my father had a garment manufacturing company, and he came back to me and, used to do all these trade shows, go to Magic, go to apparel sourcing in New York, and they're expensive to have a booth, right? Like several $1,000s. And so he was just like, hey, here's $500. What can you do with it? And why I say YouTube University is because jumped online, watched a couple of videos, built him a site on GoDaddy. And then from there, watched videos on how to run Google ad campaigns, set that up. And on $500, I built him a site and got him 2 new clients. His average order value, are in the tens of thousands of dollars because it's large scale production. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I got started in the world of digital.
Mr. Varshney, we're going to do a wonderful public service to the American small business owner right now. Help us solve this problem. The three of us have a lot in common. We operate in a space that has a very low barrier to entry. Okay. Matt and I do small business consulting, and we do small business loans. We do tax credits, and we have a wonderful podcast and an even better newsletter. Okay. But there's no barrier to entry there. There's no licensing. There's no PhD in podcasting. Anyone can buy a mic and do this. Okay?
Yep.
The same thing in your sphere. Now, if you were a small business owner out there, what are the triggers that would perk your ears when they're dealing with your counterparts that are full of bullshit. And Matt and I have gone through that rabbit hole.
Yep.
We've spent a lot of money, dealt with a lot of unprofessional people, and we would love to spare the rest of the public that pain. What advice can you give small business owners in America in awareness to avoid those pitfalls?
Sure. So because, everything is digital today, the first part is you'll most likely have a website. And if you don't, you should have one. Even if it's a page, just provides, details about yourself, who you are, what your services are. Make sure you have a contact button on there. To build any of these sites, if you sit and do it, you use a program like Wix, you use a program like Squarespace, maybe it costs you $30 a month, right? You can go to a web dev agency and not knocking them if they're doing good work and they're very much professionals in the space you're working in. And if they're quoting you $5,000 to build a website plus, and there are different complexities to websites. So I do need to call that out. That's very important. There's different complexities, but if your website is an informational website, information, you get on, get information, you get in contact. They're charging you $5,000 a month, $5,000 fee to build that site, and then $1,000 a month after for maintenance. Don't do that. Don't do that. Your maintenance costs, honestly, for most businesses out there is $30 a month, right? And yes, you want to have someone on staff to make these changes for you, right? Understood. You want someone on staff to make those changes. Just find out what the hourly cost is if they are making text changes, if they're updating an image. Might be like $30 an hour. How long does it take to update an image? 5 minutes, right? And so you end up saving yourself $12,000 a year, or it'll be less, say $11,500 a year, because you spent $500 throughout the year paying someone hourly to jump in and make the changes. The part where I can understand if someone is charging you money is that, hey, you're paying that professional to design and develop your site. There might be custom coding that's involved. You're paying them for all of the time and experience that they have building these, building this infrastructure for adjacent businesses. Pay them the one-time cost and save money on the back end of it. Informational sites should really only cost you $2,500, $3K one time, then pay the $30 a month for any changes. That $30 an hour is enough, for you to not get caught up in this. Oh, I got to pay this web developer because he's doing this laundry list of services that honestly is just built into the web programs at this point. It's just built in, right? So that's something that I will call bullshit on. You don't need, to build this complex system if it's an informational site. Listen, if you're running e-commerce, you have a SaaS business, right? Software as a service, different story. You're going to need a tech team. You're going to need somebody to update stuff. You're going to need new logic built in continuously. For that, it's you have to understand what the market is, what the market costs are. But there are also cheaper ways to maybe get some of these sites up and going, right? You could use a program like Bubble.io. They have all of these complex pre-built sites that you can go in and reskin, and all the functionalities are pretty much built. So there are cheaper ways of doing stuff. Cheaper isn't always the better route. Sometimes you need the professional, but if it's informational for a lot of small businesses, it is. Save yourself the money.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
So when you first started out, we're talking about local podiatrists, but let's give the audience a little bit of color on who your firm works with. I mean, you're working with companies that are really high growth companies, right?
Yes.
You got Babbel, Twitch, BarkBox, HelloFresh, right? So how do you go from running some ads for your dad, building a website, to getting these, future unicorns?
Yeah. Great question. So my background, after after college, I worked at American Express, and I was there running DM campaigns for the Platinum Express card, and very much enjoyed it there. But it's large corporate. There's a specific structure you need to work in. You only get promoted once every year and a half. You're like, that just didn't work for me. So I ended up jumping ship and going to work for Jim Cramer down on Wall Street at thestreet.com. That's where I got a lot of my experience. I rose to head of growth over there. I started managing ad platforms. I started working with the engineering team directly to build products that used to live or still maybe live on the site. And so got a ton of like experience. And while I was building this experience, there were other things I wanted to learn because at the time I was like 22, 23. And I was working directly with an engineering team, giving them product recommendations. And to better my knowledge, I enrolled into the Flatiron School to learn how to code. I'm by no means a coder. It's just, it taught me how engineers think. That's very important. When you're working with, folks with specific skill sets, you need to understand how they think. And so took that course. And from there, I went over to a little agency for marketing, and they predominantly worked with startups. So I started working with these startups, fingers to keyboard, got a bunch of experience. I had experience on the brand side, on the agency side. This startup focused on content marketing, like advertorial style marketing. But my experience from working at thestreet.com was very full funnel, like creative, product, understanding of P&L, right? And so then I jumped ship and started consulting. And because I had that experience working at this startup for startups, I understood what was important for, in the startup sphere.
What year was this?
This is 2014, 2015.
It's like prime time. This is prime time. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I jumped ship, started after the street, 2014, 2015, startup till 2020, but I was doing consulting, jump ship, and then, really started building out the agency.
That's awesome. So how did you go and land your first corporate clients?
Great question. So biz dev has been something that is ever evolving for us, and we're constantly learning, right? So because I worked in the startup sphere, I met a lot of folks that were at all of these incredible companies that jumped around, and we signed a few of those partners to work with. And then after that, tried a bunch of different things like, hey, cold email outreach, right? And like that almost never worked for us. Like it's so difficult to do that. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to flip the script right now. Let's start just putting out educational content. So we started writing our newsletter about all of the macro changes that are happening in marketing, what is important for founders. And that in turn helped our site index higher. We started getting some inbound leads, right? Keeping in touch with partners in those relationships. Again, people do business with people, getting dinners, flying out to see clients. Then also our work was speaking for itself, right? We were starting to scale businesses quite quickly. And we started getting referral inbounds. And then, had a solid client roster. We've been growing. And then a couple of years ago, we had churn happen all at once. And this was something that I hadn't faced because I was always growing. So churn stuff happened. Then it's like, okay, educational content works. I know that, if I go meet folks, I can understand their pain points and how do I build a better service, right? So we went from just a media buying agency to a media and creative agency to media creative landing pages, and also running our clients' P&L. to something very much more holistic as we were growing. And so we continue to build on our services. But what we don't do is we don't a la carte our services out for the most part. 90% of our clients are working with us where we're acting as their head of growth. We understand their P&L. We're developing creatives for them. We are designing landing pages for them. And then we're buying the paid media. And it's all connected. Because to drive growth for any of the brands we work with, a large portion of their revenue is digital. And so it's all connected. So it's understanding what part of the funnel do we need to work on. Is it the site? Is it the ad platform itself? And yeah, that's essentially how we've grown into who we are. And then the last part of this is flipping the script again when we had some of that churn. Over the last 3 years, we've averaged an 80% client retention rate past 3 months.
That's amazing.
Thank you. And we started, went back to the roots. We started having a booth at conferences. And all of Q1, I've been, on the road. I went to CES. I went to Magic. I went to Expo West. Just a couple conferences, going booth to booth, talking to.
20 years later, you're still going to Magic, huh?
Still go to. I took Dad. I took my dad. My dad's retired now, and that was a cool moment where I was like, Dad, you want to go to Magic? He's like, yeah, let's go. And we walked the floor, and Dad just walked around, did his thing, and I got to go win some business at Magic because I understood the digital landscape of what these partners are going through.
I love that, man. That's awesome. So, out of everywhere that you worked, and you're running your own company right now, right? What was the biggest frustration that you learned when you started running your own company and not being in the framework of something like TheStreet.com or American Express?
Sure. You need to create your own checks and balances. That is very, very important. Whenever I make any big decision, so Danielle and Mikey, they are now co-founders in the business. I could not do it without, we could not have gotten as far as we are without them. Anytime there's a big decision, whether it's, hey, let's invest in going to this conference, or let's hire this, new team member, we chat about it together. That's very important to have your checks.
What are your respective strengths as partners?
Sure. So for me, it's very much like thinking higher level and not being afraid to just tear everything down and restart. And that is important, especially with our business development journey, right? We've tried different ways to acquire our own partners and work with them. Sometimes things have worked, sometimes they haven't.
Let me ask you a question on that one. How many
Yes.
times a month do you want to do that? Burn everything down?
That's a great question.
Depends on the hour.
Yeah, it depends on the hour. It's it's
No,
more.
Mr. Varshney, my partner is asking you that because he walks around the office with a blowtorch.
It's calculated risks, right? Like it's hey, we've invested X dollars here. Here is the output. Here is when that future revenue will hit our accounts based on if cash flow is perfect. And cash flow is imperfect when you're getting paid from other vendors and clients. And so it's understanding, what am I working on? It's like, do I need to shorten the period of our accounts receivable? Then I know I need to work on our contract, right? Or our contract terms. Is it we are not acquiring the types of businesses we want, and is it from this one specific conference? So we won't attend it again. We'll take that and go somewhere else. It's having content out there consistently is very important for any business. Like if you're building devices or shoes, like talk about your shoe, yes, but talk about what's going on in the market and why it's important. Like, for example, X% of people that develop plantar fasciitis wearing specific types of shoes, and so what are you solving for that person, right? So In terms of burning things down, it's very much having the conversation of, here's the impact if we stop doing this. If we reinvest or reallocate resources, here's the future impact of this. What is like our calculated risk?
So, Mr. Varshney, your business and your industry has evolved so much in, I'm not even going to say the last 5 years. I'm going to say the last 5 months.
Yep.
Where do you see the marketing business going, and where is Digicom going to follow that wake?
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to just talk through pre-COVID, post-COVID, and where we are right now, right? Pre-COVID, companies were growth at all costs, right? You have fab.com. We got all of this money, raised it from investors. Let's go, 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 acquire customers. But you don't know the profitability metric. COVID happens, we see inflation, SVB bank failure happens, and now this script is flipped. Every partner we're talking to is like, hey, do you know your break-even margin? Yeah, I think so. Okay, let's just do it right now on call. Like, I will do it for you. Here's where you are. Here's how, here's where you need to be to continue to be profitable and sustain growth. That is one huge change that has happened on a macro level over the course of 3 years, right? You have from the dot-com boom all the way through COVID, grow at all costs, and then all of a sudden we have inflation and a bank failure, and it's like, oh, wait a second, money's dried up. We need to change everything.
That's the whole thing. The VCs stopped writing checks.
Yes.
Matt, this guy's crazy. He wants companies to make money. He's out of his mind.
It's crazy, right? It's so crazy. Another example is iOS, right? Anybody that's on that's been running e-commerce understands the impact of iOS, but maybe not everybody fully understands the impact of iOS. So what do I mean by this? You say you're driving 10 sales a day. Your entire business is Facebook. Let's just say that's what it is. On Facebook, you're driving 10 conversions a day, 10 transactions, right, that are occurring. You spend $100 a day. Your cost to acquire that customer is $10. Now, on your Shopify platform, you're seeing 10 conversions a day as well, right? Still, your platform, your Shopify cost to acquire person is $10. Apple introduces iOS. And what ends up happening is a platform like Facebook is now not able to record all of the conversions that are occurring. So those 10 conversions a day that were happening on Facebook go to 5 conversions a day, cut in half. Your same $100 budget, your cost to acquire a customer on Facebook is now $20, right? You have marketers and founders everywhere going, oh shit, like, our cost to acquire has doubled. We're no longer profitable. But what was not happening is nobody was looking at the back end metric of, hey, we're still seeing 10 Shopify conversions come in a day, and the only place we're running ads or any traffic is through Facebook, right? So your Shopify CPA in the same instance is still $10 a day. And the reason that was happening is because people were saying, don't track me. And so what ends up happening is people are then going in and purchasing through a meta ad. It's just half the amount of people are getting attributed on the ad platform, right? So that's why you go from the 10 to the 5. But on the back end, you're still seeing 10. So what ends up, continuing this portion of the story, it's all of these marketers and founders are like, oh my God, what's going on? Let's pull back budgets. Let's do X, let's do Y. And they buckled over themselves, which paved the way for other platforms like a Triple Whale, for example, which allows you to see attribution in a more holistic omni-channel way, which has been super helpful for us. Yeah.
Mr. Varshney, what's the most outlandish, like outside the box marketing scenario one of your clients has attempted that actually worked?
One of our clients has attempted. Okay. I got to think about this one. Yeah, I got to think about this one because there's so many different like ways to convert partners. Like for example, this isn't outlandish. This has been used for so many years. It's like serving people white papers, right? Like, hey, sign up to this free white paper or sign up to this webinar, and then putting them into flows. I think the outlandish part of this is when clients realize I can't sell a $5,000 or $10,000 service by just serving an ad. I need to get in front of them and nurture these these potential prospects and get them to convert, or I need to get on a call with them, understand their pain points, right? This isn't an outlandish campaign, for example, but it's when the realizations happen of, hey, I need to flip script. I have a partner that we used to work with, Highbeam. They developed a technology only to find out that all of their clients were only using one part of their technology, not everything. And this is for building SMS text lists, like the chatbot AI text list, right? And that was the only part of, or the majority part of the business their clients were using in general. And so what did High Tide come back and do? Highbeam at the time, they changed their entire company MO to providing this one set of services to, hey, we're only providing this list building tool for you. And they rebranded, their name is now High Tide. And essentially, if someone does a free giveaway, you can now track back the giveaway and get someone into your SMS list or your email list using their technology. And I think that was very smart because now they're a rocket ship. They're growing so quickly because they're solving a specific problem, which they figured out by looking at the user data of the services their SaaS platform offered, and realized, hey, people are only using this.
No, definitely asking and figuring out what your client base is doing and seeing where they are with your technology is like one thing that most people need to do more of.
Yeah.
Me and Luigi were just having this conversation yesterday about Slack, right?
Yep.
Slack didn't start out as a messenger company, right? Slack started out, I think, as a video game company, right? And they built this really cool tool, and that was a really cool part of the company. Everything else they burnt down, and now look, they're $1 billion company. Right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you always have to be willing to pivot. Mont, we really want to be respectful of your time. Can you tell the audience where they can find you on the socials and how they can get in touch with you over at Digicom?
Sure. Please feel free to shoot me an email at Hemant, Hemant @digicom.io. You can find me on LinkedIn, Hemant Varshney, and check out our site. Feel free to submit any inquiries in our contact form on digicom.io. And, I'm always happy to help business owners.
One question before I let you run. One platform only. Which one are you picking to advertise on? Meta doesn't count. You got to pick one.
I would advertise on Google first.
Google.
Yeah. And the reason why, it's intent to purchase. When someone is searching for a specific product, so right now I have this charging bank, right? I type in charging bank on Google. You see the shopping carousel of all the charging banks that exist. Or if it's like, I need a plumber right now, plumber near me, and you geo-target. And so you can be like, there's intent where it's plumber near me, you geo-target, someone searches that, they can find you right away. Versus you have something like a Meta, you're just scrolling through and you see ads, right? It doesn't mean you want the product.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest difference is intent to purchase.
The biggest problem that I have with Meta is use Meta, they'll see my ad, then they'll see 75 of my competitors' ads right underneath me. So hopefully I have the best copy, right?
Matt, do you still own that house in the metaverse, or did you sell that?
What?
Do you still own that house in the metaverse?
I might. Who knows? Hey, you got to try new things. You can't give up. You got to always keep testing. Come on. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody, that's a wrap of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.